What if you never left your home country, you never traveled abroad, you never even left your tiny little small town, but you've been suffering from extreme culture shock this entire time? Hello, welcome to Pilgrimage Films, and welcome to our cross-cultural mission series, where we take our experience living and working in another culture and we apply that to the world of missions. So today, we're talking about culture shock! This is something huge, monumental, that isn't really discussed much in the context of Christianity. Culture shock is defined as the feeling of disorientation experienced by someone when they are suddenly subjected to an unfamiliar culture, way of life, or set of attitudes. But we're going to turn it up to Ben Shapiro speed and try to do culture shock in 60 seconds. Culture shock is experienced when moving from one culture to another. This disorientation can be jarring, overwhelming, and hard to navigate. It generally has 4 phases. First, the honeymoon phase. Everything's new and just really exciting. You're like, this is awesome. Second, the negotiation phase. Everything is challenging and different, and that starts to create anxiety. Third, the adjustment phase. You learn the necessary skills to cope with and interact with the new culture. This phase, the third one, often has 3 basic outcomes. Number 1, integration. You basically take on the identity of the new culture and integrate fully, adopting the new culture as your own. Number 2, blending. You mix with the new culture and create this sort of unique blend of the old and the new. Or number 3, my personal favorite, rejection. You never integrate into these new cultures. The people can become hostile towards the new culture, withdraw mentally, and see the old culture as the only way out. The problem, though, is that people who do rejection often can't reintegrate into their own culture afterwards. If you manage to beat the odds and start integrating, you may arrive at the prestigious 4th phase, the adaptation phase. You integrate into the new culture and master the difficult and challenging elements of integration. I need to breathe after that one. What if your negative interactions with the Christian faith are simply because you're never really equipped for spiritual culture shock? Perhaps you felt these symptoms before. Number 1, you're lost between your old and your new life. Number 2, the joy of being a Christian seems like a faded memory. Number 3, you feel isolated and you long for a different life. Number 4, you're bitter and jaded towards the Christianity you once loved. The difference between a Christian and a non-Christian is vast.
We are not at all the same.
Christianity has its own traditions, values, language, culture, even foods, like church punch.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
This is not even acknowledging, though, the deep spiritual implications. This is just the surface level of Christianity. But there's real danger in failing to acknowledge that there's a difference between your old and your new culture.
A little bit of something I've been roasting in the sun for a number of weeks now, and it's almost ready. Delicious.
And spiritual culture shock is unique because becoming a Christian is irreversible. You're part of a new culture whether you want to be or not. When I first became a missionary, it was awful. I complained about the food, I complained about the heat, I complained about anything really that I could. Everything was compared to my old life. America!
You look like the 4th of July. It makes me want a hot dog real bad.
Then an old Canadian man, a cantankerous one, he lived without AC and he told me, I don't use AC because Taiwan is what it is. And it clicked. I tried to control and change and mold and find my little slice of America in Taiwan. And I hadn't simply accepted and lived and pressed into the life that Taiwan offered. Instead, I'd just always been rejecting it, and that was making me miserable.
This vermin speaks of affairs he knows nothing about. That is true. He has no respect. That is also true.
So after that, everything changed. I accepted Taiwan for what it was, and I began to engage Taiwan as it was instead of trying to change it to be what I want. And that small little change moved me from being a rejecter of the culture to an adapter. And I fell in love with the place. But imagine if I went to Taiwan and I spent 10 years here. I never travel the country. I only eat McDonald's. I only speak English. I have no Taiwanese friends. And then I go home to America and I tell people, Taiwan is so hard to live in and I don't like it. Well, of course you don't like it. You've never even actually experienced Taiwan. You've only experienced yourself miserably trying to control and mold Taiwan into America and failing.
Wow, it's a little early for ice cream, don't you think?
It's never too early for ice cream, Jim. But we didn't have any ice cream. So this is mayonnaise and black olives.
Oh.
It's comfort food, all right? God.
It's ridiculous, right? But when we apply this to Christianity, we see that maybe we're doing the same thing. How many people do you know who made a decision to be a Christian, but they just sort of wallow in misery? It's so hard.
Michael? Okay, I'm going to talk straight to you because I think you need to hear it. Michael?
This is so disgusting.
Stop eating it. Do you want to be happy? look at you.
I hear so many people today throwing around words like evangelical deconstruction. And I sometimes think like, honestly, I'm not convinced you really need to deconstruct anything right now because I don't think you built what you think you built. Like, I don't think you built this Christian worldview. I think you built your own worldview and wanted to call it Christianity.
These people have given up everything to follow Christ. I can relate though. I put Jeremiah 29:11 in my Insta bio.
Maybe that's you. Maybe you have spiritual culture shock. Maybe you're caught between your old life and your new. Well, Ephesians 4:17-24 actually speaks to this cultural clash. You must no longer walk as the Gentiles do, in the futility of their minds. They're darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them, due to their hardness of heart. They've become callous and have given themselves up to sensuality, greedy to practice every kind of impurity. But that is not the way you learned Christ, assuming that you have heard about him and were taught in him, as the truth is in Jesus, to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. We see here Paul calling those of us in our new culture to walk in it and create distance between our old and new self. And this needs to click for you, right? The Bible is what it is. The church is what it is. Prayer is what it is. Deuteronomy 4:29 says we need to seek the Lord with all our heart, soul, and mind, and if we do, we'll find him, right? But seeking is active. You shouldn't try to disengage. You shouldn't try to fight it and find some Bible that says what you want. You shouldn't try to pray on your own terms. Instead, we're simply to release control and accept Christianity as it is.
How did that guy know where to find you?
I assume he saw my name and address at the bottom of the letter I nailed to his door.
You signed your real name?
Of course I did. What's gonna happen? A vegan is gonna physically attack me? They are basically made of glass. But more importantly, if you believe in something, you sign your name to it.
Because until you accept the Bible for what it is and actually live out what is in it, you haven't actually experienced the Christian life any more than someone who only eats McDonald's and has experienced Taiwan, right? Like, they've lived in a bubble that's not actually what they think they're experiencing. Honestly, my life would have been wrecked if it wasn't for so many people, like experienced missionaries, looking out for me and saying, hey, you seem a little frustrated right now. Like, are you maybe experiencing some culture shock? They took the time to address my needs. In cross-cultural ministry, those of us with experience need to keep our eyes open and be on the lookout for Christian brothers and sisters who are struggling to adapt. You see, you can't forget the vast ocean between the worldview of the old self and the new self. It's just too large to simply address with a few moral actions. We should be looking for spiritual culture shock in the Christians around us and address it. Maybe your friend goes to church and does some external things for Christianity, but they fail to just read the Bible 30 minutes a day, right? Or maybe they don't just pray because they love to talk to God. It's like very ritualistic. Getting in God's Word and communing with God is not only an easy practical step for fighting through spiritual culture shock, it's like foundational. Like, without it, we're never going to be able to put on the new self. So you should go grab them and study the Word together. Our actions can help guide them away from disaster just by simply asking them if they're pushing against God or actually putting in the work to go with Christianity as it is. To follow Jesus as God intended rather than, what we want or what we think would be easy. Thank you for joining Pilgrimage Films today. This is our third video on cross-cultural ministry and what you can learn from being a missionary and looking at some of the lessons that we learned through our training and through our experience here. Some of our other content, like our Shang-Chi video that blew up last week because people love Morris. That guy's super cute. You should check it out. That's content that we love to produce, and we'll be making more of that soon. If you're a new subscriber, that might be a little bit weird. You're like, I thought I signed up for Marvel stuff, and now we're just talking about Christianity. I'm actually fairly convinced that would be weird if you made it to the end of this video and that was your perspective, but if you did, man, give yourself a clap. We are supported by people like you, and it takes only a second for you to do that little thing, press the button and subscribe. But for us, it means a lot. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And one thing we appreciate is if you take some time and maybe watch a video after this that you haven't seen before, or maybe share our video on social media like Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter, whatever the kids are using these days. We love you and are so grateful for you as our audience. Till next time, ciao. Now we're back to recording. Everybody loves recording.